March. Oh, I forgot anyway. It was pretty close. That was in 1951. And they already made 2 parachute jumps there in March. That's right now. But the 82nd were really a train outfit for not just put together a bunch of guys. We were trained like a team. So we can't take one and it's like a team. But we're trained for a specific purpose, and that was for Russia. Because at that time the Cold War was really strong.
My name is Sharon Hoffman, and we're doing this oral history today at the Atomic Testing Museum in Las Vegas. It is October 25th, 2015, and we're very pleased today to have our 2 guests today. Where I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves, since otherwise I'm liable to butcher your names.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Albert K. Tseu. And I'll spell the last name for you. It's T as in Tom, S as in Sam, E-U, Tseu.
I'm his best friend, Sue Jerome.
Thank you both for being here today and for agreeing to do this oral history. What I'd like to start with, Al, is if you can tell us a little bit about your history in the military. Let's start with specifically the atomic bomb tests, but we can go into as much other areas as you would like to in the course of this conversation.
Are you more interested in the atomic bomb or what leads up to my joining the Army? Why I did what I did, I mean, in going in to the military?
I'm interested in all of that. So maybe let's start with the atomic bomb, and then let's talk about your broader military background, both why you got into the Army and some of the other things you did, because that was one day, and I'm sure that you did many other interesting things during your career.
Okay. Well, to start with, I was with the 82nd Airborne Division, and that division was mostly in the European campaign during World War II. Anyway, I was assigned there to the 82nd Airborne Division, to the 504 Parachute Infantry Regiment, which is the unit that came over to the test site to do our test in A-bomb. And so we were at maneuvers up in New York. I think it's called the mountain there is called Andy Adirondack or something like that. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the name. Yeah.
Adirondack.
Yeah, that's.
I'm from that part of the country.
Yes, it's a high mountain, very cold. We had ski training there, snow training, ski training, and how to fight in snow, combat training in snow. For what purpose? I think we know, but probably for Russia eventually. But that was during the Korean War in 1952 that we were brought here to Las Vegas, and to do this A-bomb test. And we were told that it'll be twice the size of Hiroshima, the power, and twice the size of Nagasaki, the bombs. So we came here in April of 1952, and we were told that there's going to be 3 miles, the closest the troops were ever placed near the bomb where it exploded. And so we were in trenches. There were about almost 300 to 275 people from our unit. It's the 82nd the Airborne Paratroopers. And then we were told that we were going to jump into the drop zone too after the bomb is exploded. So anyway, that day of April 22nd, 1952, I can remember it very clearly. It was a real nice day, and so we were in the trenches, not very deep, maybe about 3.5 feet, 4 feet high, and all 300 more men were in that trenches. And there were other troops too, I was told, but I never seen them. They were the Marines. They were further back or near us. But when the bomb exploded, well, the bomb really was dropped by an airplane. It was like a parachute. They dropped the bomb, and they knew when it's going to hit the ground, so they had a countdown: 10, 9, 8, 7. And then when they did hit the ground, we could feel. First of all, we felt the hot air that came in, very hot. It's like opening the oven door. That's the best way I can describe it. And so we were huddled down, and we went below the terrain where the bomb would go over us, but the heat just came over us. And it was very hot. And about 15 minutes later, well, actually, when the bomb went off, we turned around, we looked at where the bomb was, and I saw the biggest donut I've ever seen. You know how the A-bomb would go, and it became like a rolling donut, fiery donut. And when we look up, it was right above us because we're just 3 miles away. You look at the flame and the cloud. It was a sight to behold for a young boy of 22 at the time. Yeah, and so we watched it go around, and they said, well, then they called us and just go to the truck. So I think within 40 minutes or less, we got into the truck, and we were airborne. We put on our parachute and all the equipment that we have on. Yeah, we call it battle gears, rifle, and those things that we wear for combat. So we put everything on, and we went on the airplane, almost 300 of us, and we went over the drop zone, and both doors of the C-46 was open. There were about 26 men in each airplane, so there were quite a amount of planes in the air. And so when we got over to the drop zone, the lights in that airplane turned green, meaning jump. And so the 7 jump commands were given: get ready, stand up, hook up, check your equipment, check, sound for equipment check, and shuffle and stand at the door. I was the third man out, and I could see outside where the bomb was, had exploded. Of course, we were about, at the time, with a height of pretty close to 1,000 feet, And so, and then when the signal was given to jump, we just boom, boom, jump out of it. There were 26 men, I think, less than 10 seconds, we're out of the airplane. All 26, both doors. And so when I jumped out, I didn't feel that my parachute opened, because normally when it opened, it has a tremendous burst, pow! And I didn't feel that. Then I knew something was wrong. And so usually if your parachute don't open, you have 8 seconds before you hit the ground. And that's pretty fast. And I don't want to go down that fast. I want to take my time. And so I looked up and saw the parachute was not completely deployed, and it was tangled above the chute, and it was tangled up. So I pulled my reserve, hang on to it for less than a second, and I threw it far as I can so it doesn't hit the main chute. It was going like this, weaving, just swinging. If it had caught my reserve, I wouldn't have any parachute to go down it. So it caught it. And so the thing is, there's no time to be scared, because you got to get things done, And so it was something that you have to be calm. I don't see how anybody can panic, because you trained for this time, for this moment to happen. So I just pulled it, threw it forward, parachute open. Then I climbed my other chute that didn't open fully, climbed it by the risers, and I grabbed the string and I swing it out to free that tangle. And it came out okay. And so then I got 2 parachute open. And as I was coming down, maybe less than a few seconds later, I looked down and I saw this photographer was taking my picture completely as I landed. And I landed very close to him, not more than 20, 30 feet from him. And he was keep shooting my picture. And I was putting my rifle back together, because that's what we do after we land. And I remember asking, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here at all. And so he said, never mind, soldier, just do what you got to do. But he did take a picture of me coming down. And then after we got all equipment on, the parachute off, equipment tightened up, I looked over and see many of these cages of animals. And, they were not burnt, like charcoal burnt. They were actually like red, like something you paint over red. It's something I never, of course they shaved the hair off. And so you have pigs, sheep, goats, and different animals, but they shaved the hair off. And And when I saw that, I saw a sheep that looked up at me because I was next to him real close. I can remember very clearly, even though it was over 63 years ago, I remember the goat looking at me, but he wasn't seeing anything because there was no pupils. It was just red, and there's no eyes actually. And I remember that, and so, and they were just like it was cooked, but it was red, not black or crispy. So, and all over me, all these different animal cages. So we got together, we ran out, to double time. We always double time anyway in the service. So we got to the end. I forgot how long it was. We saw a bunch of these scientists who were taking the Geiger counter and going over us. I said, "Well, what is that?" He said, "Well, there must be something to gauge our radiation exposure." And so there were about a dozen of them. They were in white jackets, and so they going through our boots and our clothing and the equipment, helmet, completely over. And while it was going through that process, I asked, "What is that noise?" Bzzz, it was going off the chart because I saw the gauge. There's a little needle there, and it was going off the gauge. Keep hitting the end. Whoa, whoa, whoa! I said, "What is that?" They said, "Never mind." I remember saying, "Never mind," and so we just went back and then went to our trucks. I guess it was so long. I don't remember quite how we got back to base, but we got back. Yeah.
Did they take away your uniforms
No.
and your equipment? You just kept on using those same ones?
Yeah, yeah. We kept, they didn't really, I don't think they understand how dangerous it was. So they never made that kind of jump again. That was crazy. With atmosphere, the atmosphere was probably laced with nuclear. I mean, you don't go that route, you don't go there after the bomb explode. But I don't think they understand. If they did, they didn't tell us. So we went through the whole thing. And so really, I had a lot of friends that was in there when I came out the Army. I kept in touch with them. A couple said they were dying. One had both had thyroid cancer, and much later in life, but some died very shortly thereafter, I guess, because you don't hear anymore. Yeah. And so at this meeting today,
Yes.
nobody was there. That was my company. I would love to meet up with his buddies because we slept with them, we ate with them, we trained with them, we played around with them. Of course, we trained with them. No, I don't see anybody there, and that's just me, So they couldn't find anyone. They tried to find those people that made the jump with me. I think it was Steve Clark and some other people that worked for this museum, and they said they couldn't find any. Of course, that was no surprise because if they didn't die of radiation, they'd probably die of old age. Because imagine, 1952 was, 60-something years ago. And so we are all at least I'm in my mid-80s. And so that's a long time. So I probably die of old age, and I don't have to worry about going to a nursing home. I don't think I will. But I feel great. Yeah, maybe that's, but I really appreciate taking part in this test. I don't have no regrets at all. It's a great experience.
Did you, when you jumped, you said you could see before you jumped where the bomb had landed.
Mhm.
How close did you try to jump, like right where the bomb had landed? Or?
Yeah, that was a purpose. That was a purpose to drop because we have to. Because according to what the rumors were when we were there, they said that was a preparation for Russia to show them that the 82nd Airborne is a quick strike outfit and we can get there. We can get to you. We'll drop a bomb, we'll get to you, and we'll get to you within hours, not days, because we can just drop troops off there. And that was a purpose. That's what we all kind of came up with, the conjecture. That's what it was. And so, I don't know. What was your question again?
That you answered my question. How near to
Yeah.
the center, right to ground zero?
As close as they can to the ground, it has to be, And from there we branch out. Yeah.
And what about the parachutes? Did you keep the parachutes as
Okay.
well and repack them and reuse them?
Good question, because whenever we jump out of airplanes in any drop zone, any training, we don't pick it up. I mean, it's because our purpose is to get down as fast as we can and then into combat. We don't want to waste time folding a parachute. No, I mean, that's not our business. Our business is to take care of these people down there, that they don't, they don't mess around with America.
So you just left the parachutes
Oh,
there
yeah,
and we don't,
Yeah, I think there would be detail that would pick it up later, yeah, but
Yeah.
we didn't have anything to do with it.
when you mentioned about all the animals you saw when you landed and that they appeared to be blinded and badly burnt.
Oh,
Were they trying to escape? Were they frightened, I guess would be the word I'm looking for?
it's a very good question. They were very docile, as if their energy was spent, had nothing to, they hardly, they did move, but probably more like they just didn't have any energy. You see animals that are frightened, no, I think that kind of paralyzed them, but they're not able to be normal, and their breathing was there, you could see them breathing, but they were not active at all, they were like this, just laying down, resting.
So this was one day, this was one incident in your career. The other people that you jumped with, you continued to be in the service with them for
Yes.
some period of time.
Yes, another couple of years. Mhm.
Did you ever talk about this incident and were the people frightened about what they had gone through kind of after the fact?
That's a good question, We didn't mention one word of it. We don't talk about it. We go back to our training like it was normal, normal training. And so there were no ill effects at the time, I don't think. So we were just going back. Funny, we never talked about those things, not once. After it was over, It's just another day at the office. That's what it was. Even when the parachute didn't open, I said, well, weren't you afraid? I said, that's another, to me anyway, it's just another day at the office because I had that before. You gotta know that these things will happen, and when it does happen, you just do the numbers, You do what you gotta do, and, I mean, you don't get panicky, I don't see how they can, because you're too busy thinking what you need to do, get yourself out of there, so
And Sue, what do you think when you hear this story and what do your families think? It's quite a story.
It is quite a story, and it's a very amazing story because of how well he has done in his life to still be as healthy and vibrant person that he is from what he's gone through. He has a lot of cute little jokes, but the important part I think in his life is his positive balance and how balanced he is in all 4 areas of focus in his life.
these 4 areas are physical wellness, spiritual wellness, emotional wellness, and intellectual wellness. These are the 4 areas of wellness that we all fall in that category. Like 4 wheels on a car. If one of the wheels don't work, that car not going to go anywhere. So the 4 areas, physical, spiritual, emotional, and intellectual, would be that thing that put the person in that wellness together. And so I try to stay physically fit. I do that.
Well, you do look very physically fit, if I may say that.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Would you like to talk a little bit about the rest of your career? How long were you in the 82nd Airborne?
Okay, I was there about 3 years.
Okay.
It's a 3-year enlistment, and they wanted me to re-enlist to go to officers candidate school because the Korean War was still on. But my plan, I had a plan when I was very young to join the Army, and then what got stronger, the desire to join the Army was stronger because I know there's educational benefits, and so I got out in time to go to college and got my degree at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah, and in the field of marketing and accounting. And so I just stayed in enough to get my term. They want me to stay in because the value that I can be with them. I could go to, they want me to go to the OCS, which is Officer Candidate School, and then to go to Ranger School, which is called Commando School, and the Commando type school, and then also to go to language school to perfect my. Actually, I don't speak Chinese at all, but I do understand some. I would be invaluable as a interpreter as well as, it's just something they want. And so if I did that, I'd probably well, not still be, but I would have been in and become a area where I'd be very useful in that area because of my background. But I didn't stay in. If I stayed in, I probably wouldn't be the same person I am. I'd probably be different. I'd be harder. You gotta be.
Of course. Would you like to share a little bit about why you went into the 82nd Airborne at the time you did, as opposed to some other service, and why volunteer at that time?
Okay, see, my father fought in the First World War in France from Hawaii at 19 when the First World War started. He volunteered. And so he went to France, got 7 campaigns in and 3 Purple Hearts. So when he got married, and when he was married to my mom, and he talked about the war, and I was very young, and I was fascinated by it more than any of my other siblings. So I wanted to be in the Army. Whenever I can remember at 6 years old, I hear the Army marching song. I'd be marching with a stick, I would just want to be in the Army. And so it was my desire. So when the Second World War began in 1941, I was about 11 or 12 years old then. 11? Yeah, 10, 11. I wore to shine shoes, polished shoes, because that was back in the Depression years, where it was pretty tough. Living in Hawaii, there were a lot of service personnel that crossed the island because of they go to combat in Japan, Guam, Iwo Jima. So we shine a lot of shoes for the GI, Navy, Army, Marine, Air Force, Coast Guard, 5 different branches of service, all in Honolulu, in the close vicinity. So we were inundated with military people, so that influence was greater on me. And then I saw a bunch of paratroopers, though they're not very common, they're rare, maybe 1% of paratroopers. And I asked this one soldier, I said, they were across the street where shining shoes of this guy. I said, who's this guy? They had these nice boots on. He said, oh, those are paratroopers. Oh, okay. And so I wanted to get close to them to talk to them, but they were a group, but they just stand out. They were a very lively group. But then I was in high school, I saw this poster. They say, wear the badge of courage, which is the airborne wings, You get that. So I want to be a paratrooper because that's what I want to be. It's exciting. I never flew in an airplane because back in those days when I grew up, even kids in my age in Kansas, Iowa, Kentucky, wherever, Tennessee, they don't ride airplane, go on airplanes on a trip. It's driving, right? In the 40s and 50s. So I said, well, I want to go to be a paratrooper, and the adventure was so great. And so when I graduated from high school, I knew that what I wanted to do. So I volunteered, and there was a sign that says, in the Army recruiting office, wear the badge of courage. I said, that's what I'm going to go, airborne paratroops. So I got in there, took my basic at Fort Ord, California in 1950, August, and then got out and went to Fort Benning, Georgia. And that's where I got my jump training. What do you call it? Jump training, jump school, or airborne school. Now they call it airborne school. And it was a very intensive. But before I get into that, you got to qualify physically. There's 500 points: push-up, pull-ups, squat jumps, all different exercises. If you score 500 points, that's perfect. But if you score 350, you can get in. 350 is very difficult, but I made 480 points. And actually, I could have done 500, but I won't go to that. But just that they didn't tell me to do, they told me to do a certain amount of push-up, but I did more than that, just to do them a favor. But then I wouldn't get any more points anyway, and so that tires me for other points of running. I was running with another one. How fast you run 200 yards, back and forth. Well, by that time I was exhausted, but that's where I think I lost my points. But yeah, and so I got in, went to training. It was so fun because these young men, they never flew an airplane either. Most of them have now, you know. So how much time do I have?
You have as much time as
Oh,
you
okay.
would like to
Yeah,
talk.
and so we have this bunch of kids, never been in an airplane. Myself, the highest I've ever been was on a mango tree, you know, because in Hawaii we didn't have any four-story. Well, we had four-story building, but we don't go into it. That's the highest back then was high. That was considered high, and so I climbed a mango tree. That's the highest I've been. And then the next thing I know, I have to jump out of the airplane, you know. But I was so proud because that was the last week of training. To qualify, you have to make 5 jumps within this week time in order to earn your wings. But prior to that, we had a jump school training exercise up until the last week to graduate until we jump out of airplane. We jump out of 6-foot ledges, land on our backs and everything, just what they call it parachute landing fall. You have to learn that. Then we jump from a 34-foot tower that was guided by line. That was a very exciting thing to do, jumping out, and then all of a sudden there's a line that stops you before you hit the ground. That's a real test. And then the last week was jumping from airplanes, and we all got our parachute on, and I remember the first time I made a jump, there was no fear. I was just so happy. I was the first man out at the time because I was the first guy, and so I stood by the door and I held my look into the sky and looked down. And then they said, go. I just jumped out, and boy, that fear got into me so great. I said, what am I doing? I found myself falling. Because when you go in an airplane, you're flying at 150 miles an hour minimum, and then your propeller, the twin-engine propeller will blow black. It's about 150 miles, like the hurricane. They call it C5, I think. It was powerful. So when I jumped out, the thing swept my feet up. My head was backwards. When the chute opened, it got me upright, and my collarbone was raw, and pretty soon the flesh was torn out from it. After the fourth jump, I could see it was real deep by that time. But I was happy, but I was scared, because it's normal to be scared. But after that, we got assigned to the 82nd Airborne, where we trained every time when we jump, and I was able to not be scared, but a little leery. I'll tell you why. But we didn't pack the parachutes. These are packed by young men that was in the riggers, parachute rigging, and we don't know how they would pack their parachutes. Some they could. That's why we have failures, but they're not careful. But you call it sky jumpers, or what do you call it? Yeah. Anyway, these kids now, they jump out of plane, but they pack their own parachutes, and when you pack your own parachute, you know it's going to be okay. But we jump on a parachute that we don't even know, and there are many things that go wrong with that. So we jump with a leap of faith that it's going to be okay. That's why that's about the only part we fear. But once the parachute opens, it's fine. And so I was bringing my camera with me to take pictures as I jump out. Got to the point where I could do that, and so I got some pictures at home and I kept it. But I was very proud of the outfit because when we were taking basic, we saw some paratroopers going back to Korea, and and I knew I was going to be one, and to talk to them, I was so excited about it because I guess it's more like there's a lot of glory in that thing because other military people really admire the paratroopers. They really do. But we do things, and that is when we're like rock star. I kid you not. When I went to Fort Lee, Virginia, where the WACs were taking training, the airborne, the commanding officer was a female of the WACs, Women Army Corps, and on their headquarters building, all these parachutes and on, and so if they got a boyfriend from that, they're pretty good, pretty popular. Yeah, so the airborne was very, very popular, but rare. You don't see them very much of them. So I would be stationed at Fort Bragg and go up to New York and see the place. But it's a wonderful experience. Boy, if I can do it again, I will.
So you only did 5 jumps before you graduated, or 5 jumps from the airplane?
Yeah, 5 jumps to qualify. After that, we jump every time.
Okay.
We have to be training all. So we made about 3 dozen or so more jumps after that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in fact, we trained the West Pointers. The West Pointer that want to go airborne or be a paratrooper, they would come with us into our barracks to train with us as we go out to training. And even in the jumps, they would be with us. They would sit across us. It's so expensive to even drop paratroopers. But these guys from West Point, they were the class of 52. I remember that. Class of 52 were going to graduate that summer, and they were going to be airborne. So they want to see if they're going to like it, you know. And so they trained with us, and on the last day, we jumped, and they watched us jump. But they had the parachute on and everything. They got everything was on, but they're not qualified to jump. So they sit across us. We were the qualified parachuters, and so they watched us with intensity, and they see our faces, how we react. And so, but you know, we were very carefree. We were kind of like, oh, what's the word they use? Anyway, I'm lost for words. And so they get a 7 jump command, and you know, stand ready, get ready up. And we're ready to jump. We stomp in the airplane, go, 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 go. And these young cadets, the graduate, you look at us, and they were crazy guys. We were just like, you know, crazy people. Want to get out, go, go, go. And so when I stand up, hook up, and I was going to the door, less than a second, we go out the door. So just before I left, I tell the cadet, "So you want to come with me?" No. And I just shoom, left the door. But these cadets would see if they want to do that or they don't. But there's a lot of there. So those that volunteer will have to qualify. They don't usually all get in because you have to qualify physically and, you know, emotionally, things like that. Yeah.
Would you talk to us a little bit about landing? You mentioned that the very first jumps were from 6 feet to teach you how to land.
Parachute landing fall. Yeah.
So can you explain that a little bit? What do you have to do to make sure that you're not
Okay.
going to get hurt when you land? And
That's a good question, because see, when you land with a parachute, you land at 30 miles an hour. It's not a soft landing, and for people to look, because we come down at 30 miles an hour this way or backwards or sideways. So we learn how to fall frontwards, backwards, sideways, how to roll with the fall, not to be tense, because you keep your eye on the horizon, and as your feet just hit the floor, just collapse and roll. If you don't do that, there's a lot of injury. People break their back, their legs, their arm, their shoulders. Yeah, a lot of them do, because and so those things are you taught to land. So we jump backwards at 6 foot. We jump backwards, and as soon as our feet hit the ground, we roll left or right or back. You have to do that. If you don't do that, you're gonna be of no value after you land in a combat situation. You gotta be okay. And so, yeah, we do land pretty fast, and so that was how we learned how to fall. In fact, that even with myself today as an old person, I did fall one time. You know, I would jog, I hit that sidewalk, the concrete, and I fall forward. My parachute landing fall came automatic. I just rolled over and I jumped up and I kept on running. You know, there was no breaking it at all. And so, you know, how people fall forward, they run like, oh, and then they land on their hand. I don't do that. I just, as I tripped, I was running as fast as I can, but as soon as I tripped, I kept myself up, but then I had time to roll, to break the fall and roll over, and that way you don't break any bones. Yeah, that's what it was for. It's very important to learn how to land.
did you ever get hurt on a landing?
No, but one time we had a jump that was supposed to be canceled. It was a regimental jump, and that's very expensive because you have 2,000 men in the regiment, and they got on the airplane, and they were, oh gosh, maybe I can't count. There were about 26 people in an airplane each. So you would think of 2,000. There's a lot of people in an airplane flying at the same time. The V's, you know how they are. And so at the door, I would look out and I see the next plane try to get the draft, you know, coming out. And they were full of planes in the air, and 2,000 people jump up. And but anyway, that day they were supposed to cancel the jump because of the wind was 35 miles an hour, and you don't jump at that speed. The gust was probably 50 miles an hour, because back then in the 50s, there were no weather report. I mean, no accurate weather report. of what the weather going to be like until it happens, you know. And so there was no satellite. Today you have satellite, you can predict it weeks ahead. And so so that jump was not canceled. We jumped, and we should not have jumped. And most of the men were drifted away from the drop zone into trees and rough terrain. And I saw myself coming down, and that was a tough place to land because it was so rocky, you know, all these different terrain. But I didn't. So once I landed, boom, and I couldn't even get my parachute in because the wind blew the parachute like a sail, and it blew me and it carried me on my fat stomach by at least 30 or 40 yards. And in the meantime, I was kicking up dirt and on my face. And then, so what I did, I pulled the short lines to me until they collapsed the air, pulled the air in, and I ran around and I twirled it. But that day there were a lot of injuries, and there were a young man that was killed because as the parachute dragged him on the ground, after the parachute dragged him backwards, he landed backwards. So his head and shoulder hit that tree stump, and he found he was got a broken neck, and he was dead. He was safe, okay, but when he landed, it dragged him 30 miles an hour wind. So the landing is like jumping out of a truck going 30 miles an hour. Just jump it off, and that's how it feels like. You tumble.
Do you have a preference for which direction you land? You said you learn to land in
Yes.
any direction.
Yes.
If you had a choice as you're coming down, what direction would you choose?
Well, it really the side would be better, left or right side. Forward, if you land forward, I still would have to twist myself to land on the side. So most of the time you have to adjust how you want to land. So I land on my right side all the time. Yes.
So we've talked about how you got in and your training. Then eventually you went to Korea.
Good question. They wanted to send us to Korea. We were already packed, ready to go. That was in March. Oh, I forgot anyway. It was pretty close. That was in 1951. And they already made 2 parachute jumps there in March. That's right, though. In 1951, 2 airborne unit went there. They gather all these guys that want to go airborne and train them and then take them over to jump. But the 82nd were really a train outfit for not just put together a bunch of guys. We were trained like a team. So we can't take one and it's like a team. And so we were ready to go, but then they canceled. And everybody was so disappointed. We wanted to go. You know, now, these are the kind of men that if you said to them, would you go over and drop in at night into Hitler's compound and do a killing, you know, some invasion of them? I would say all of them would say, I want to go. These are the kind of kids they were, because they like to take chances. They do things like that. And so, yeah. But anyway, they cancel our order because they feel that it's like an ace in the hole when you play. You don't want to play the ace. It's just a waste. But we're trained for a specific purpose, and that was for Russia. Because at that time, the Cold War was really strong. And they needed a unit that the Russians are watching and they don't want to mess with, get to mess with America. And so we were trained for that purpose, and so so the orders were canceled. I was disappointed. I had my bayonet all sharp enough, and we were so excited, you know, that we were going to combat, you know. No, that was canceled, but we would love to have gone, but they didn't want to waste that troops, because they just send freshly young people, basic training. After basic training, they send them over, like, you know, to be killed. But to be trained, to be parachuted, costs a lot of money, you know, and for special purpose, for special mission. And so that's why they didn't send us over. They had to cancel. In fact, I want to quit just to go over, but they don't want us to quit.
So they kept you in the United States,
Yeah,
and they
training.
just kept you training all the time for whatever might happen.
You know, we went to Panama for swamp training, and we did well there, you know, because other troops went there and they couldn't do well. But because it's a physical condition of the men, the determination, and it's just pure different type of group of people. And so, for instance, now the swamp was crossed in something like, was it 30 hours? The airborne unit went there, we did it in less than 12 hours, half the time, probably better. And so that's the kind of men they were. And so they, you know, so we train in swamp, we train in the desert training, we train in sea training, so we knew and those are expensive training. I don't think any troop were trained like that. They trained for one mission, go to Korea and fight. You know, so we were trained for the special, the unique situation. And so I'm very glad that I went airborne. You know, really, I'll never forget those moments. You know. In fact, I never landed in an airplane until 2 years later when I went home on furlough, because every time we went in, we had to jump out. You know, so I said, so after we landed, so you know, anyway, my friend and I said, hey, is that how it feels to land in an airplane? We never landed on one. We had to get out a one-way ticket. You know.
So is there, I think we've covered a lot of territory. Is there anything else that you would like to share, that you would like to record for posterity about your service?
Okay, I'm glad you asked, because I would say this much. I think I've learned to love America so much more, how noble this country is. Of course, we have our bad, you know, things, but by and large, we're a great country. And I would fight for this country anytime. You know, even though my ethnic background is Chinese, if America went to war with China, hey, America is my country, my people, my home, my friends, my church, and my culture too. And I would not hesitate at all. This is my country. I'm so proud of it. You know, and so I would boy, I would do that again. You know, I just so, and you know, do you know why the Iraq soldiers quit so quickly? I thought about it. You know when they fought, when America went over there, and even today, they surrender quickly. Not that they're cowards. I think it's because they have no deep love for the country. There's nothing to fight for. They go back to the country, and they got tyrants ruling over them. Whereas in America, all that I am, I owe to America. I really mean that. And I love her. Anyway, yeah, that's why these people in Iraq, now they're good fighters, but they don't love their country. That's why you can't depend upon them. But the Americans, I think you can. Because they have a reason to fight. Because they love their country. The country's been good to them. They're the country of, I mean, all that we are, I owe to my country, America. So, sorry.
Well, I want to thank you so much for everything you've done for your country, and for sharing your story with us today. It's very enlightening to see, you know, what you went through and how you made your decisions. I really appreciate all the details that you have shared. So I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you if there's some stories maybe that Al has shared with you that we did not get to today that we should ask him to share.
Well, I'm not sure, but it depends on what part of his life. But the one thing I thought was interesting when he told me, when I asked him what nationality he is, he says, birthright, I am 100% Chinese, but I am 1,000% American.
That's right, yeah.
And I think he learned through his heritage to not be a coward. He told me a story about when he was coming home from school as a child. The bullies were gonna, do what they could to him, and he could tell the story better than I can, but as I remember it, his first thoughts were to run. But no, he couldn't, because that's cowardly. And he stood up to them and took good care of them, and they never bothered him again. And I think he can tell the story better than I can, but that was something that I treasure, that he shared with me.
I was only 6 years old, my first day of school, second day of school. And because I was smaller and I was shy, and they picked on me. I was 6 years old, and in school they picked on me, and I didn't know how to react to them. So there was the second day I walked home, and I looked in the back, and I saw 4 to 5 boys chasing after me. And at 6 years old, you think, wow, this is terrible. You want to run home. I did run about no more than 5 yards, and I said, wait a minute, why am I running? I got to tell my mom that I ran from the trouble. I turned around and I ran toward that ran, but I walked fast toward them. They were about 3 blocks away. I walked toward them, and they were running. And as I met them, I felt that I need to face them, and that's a decision I made. That I was, if I'm going to get beat up, hurt bad, that's fine. As long as I know I didn't run from them. And I remember that. So when I went home, I never told my parents, though. They don't know that. Even today, they passed on. I never said what I did, but I stood up for myself because I know I will never run because it's just not in me to do that. If I want to die, well, it'll be okay. I didn't know at that age that I'm not going to die. But so after that, the bullies never bothered me. So as small as I was, I tackled them. I went to just like a wrestler and beat up on them. And so the girl was only 4th grade, was because I knew her. She was a neighbor. She said, "Okay, boys, stop now." And so we listened to them. We were kids at 6 years old. We listened to old people. So we just didn't fight anymore. But I felt good about myself. And that was an experience I had that I was thinking, what would children do today? Even the men, they get natural instincts to get away from them, but I turn around and face them.
That is an excellent story, and I thank you for sharing that one with us as well. Is there anything else that you would like to make part of this history to talk about?
Well, I've talked myself out. I don't have much to say anymore, but except that I'm grateful for this country, and I'm glad I'm an American, because I think all that I am is because of the opportunities this country has given me. And I think this country has a destiny. And it has a destiny because His hands is on it. As I said, if you were there at the talk I gave, we were a continent that was unoccupied, reserved for America. And God knows the end and the beginning. And He knows He has to have a country that is stable, that people that love freedom, liberty, and would foster growth in individual. In Europe, it was already like the old wine bottle. You don't put new wine into old wine bottle because it'll break. This new people are from America, from all different nationalities. We bring them together as a fabric and make it stronger. And then we have things that God has purpose for this country. We rescue a lot of countries. They ask us to come over to help them, and we do. And even though and the atomic bomb, as deadly as it is, as cruel or as bad as it is, it's the most, it has saved many lives. Now, take for instance, Hiroshima, I think the population there at the time was about 250,000. And when they dropped the bomb, 60,000 to 75,000 died. It's horrible. Yes, it's horrible. But you know something? It's the most merciful thing that Japan can ever had happened to them, because if we didn't drop the bomb on them, more Japanese national would have died, because America would have bombed them to smithereens and caused more death. And then our troops would have died by invading them. So in a way, in hands of a good nation, atomic bomb can be wonderful, a tool for peace. And I think that's what it is. America is stronger because we need to be. If we're weak, I think today we don't have that kind of the strength anymore, a will to fight, to be strong militarily. We have to be, because our purpose is always a righteous principle. We're there to help people, not to conquer and to occupy like other nation does, where after they invade them, they take over all the resources. America gives back to them. You can't help but think There's no nation like that. What other country would do that? If Germany took over America, we'd be speaking German. And we'd be under them and be in terrible tyranny. Japan, same thing. So America free people. Korea is doing so well because America was there. Even though there was a war, but we helped them. Japan, I'm going backwards. Germany, East Germany, they're very prosperous through American influence. So they're very generous people. And God is very pleased if we are righteous, and let's hope that we stay good, and then we'll be together. But if we're wicked, then we'll be destroyed from within. So America has a destiny. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.